how we were talking about how humor isn't funny anymore because it's always just meta and people are commenting on like what the group is doing currently at the time. So like you were saying, a comedian comes, has this grand entrance, and then the first joke she makes or he makes or whoever you're saying is like, can you believe I did that?
Yeah.
Wow. Like nothing can just exist.
Nothing can just exist. Everything has to be commented on. Everything has to be joked about. There are no jokes. It's jokes about
what is happening at the moment.
That
everyone is like, self-aware jokes.
Yeah. It's like that show Community. I think that was the last comedy. We talk about like comedy is dead. I think that Community was like the pinnacle of comedy and then kind of killed it because it was the most self-aware show, but every show that tried to do that after was not funny because Community perfected it. And now we have to find out what the next round of comedy is going to be, and nobody has presented a view yet. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking why we just said that exists last episode, I think. But I thought this week, I was like, why does that exist? Like, why did that happen? And so my little theory, this isn't in conspiracy theories, you have something for that, but my deep thought was, everything is meta humor because everyone has cameras now. Mm-hmm. So anytime we see something, we want to film it, and by filming it, we're in our brain saying, I'm wondering what somebody else would think about this.
Yes.
Immediately.
Yes.
You're never experiencing something for itself. Yesterday, I was sitting downstairs and the blinds were closed and the light was coming in so I could see silhouettes.
Yeah.
And a chicken jumped up in the silhouette and was just walking. And I could just see this perfect black silhouette of a chicken walking where it wasn't supposed to be. It was on like my wood pile. Like, why is it there in the morning? Like just walking around. And I immediately pulled out my phone. And I thought, that's so weird. And I put my phone away. I was like, why was that my reaction? I saw that. I didn't just laugh. I didn't even laugh at all. I just thought, people will think this is funny.
Yeah.
I didn't even enjoy the moment. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. And then this popped to my mind about the meta humor. And so anyways, it goes a little bit deeper because bad writing, Josh.
Yes.
What I learned in college when I did creative writing, which I am glad that I did because it taught me a lot. But bad writing is writing that appeals to everybody, and it's so non-specific that it's not good. Like you have to narrow down so much. Like you have to make your characters have inside jokes that nobody really gets when they're reading it, but they come to understand it because it's like they're then understanding the characters and how they interact with each other. So you have to like narrow things down so much. You can't just make a everyman character and then it's actually relatable. It's like the backwards that you have to make stuff that is very specific and then somehow more people relate with it. Mm-hmm. So instead of filming that chicken walking across with the silhouette, I was thinking, well, instead of just like posting that as like if I was a comedian, instead of just posting this random thing, what if you like saved that moment and you crafted like into some story about how I personally perceive the world?
Okay.
How can you make that into a joke or like including that into a joke about how I perceive my personal life? Not like, hey, look, a chicken's walking across the thing. Right. That's funny.
Right.
Like nobody, that's not funny at all.
Right.
Like, but for some reason in that moment, I thought, people will think this is funny.
Yeah.
But it's not funny, and people might have smiled at it. I don't know. I don't care. But I was thinking, if I was like a professional comedian and I was going to do stand-up, how could you take that instance and like stitch together like how I personally perceive the world, and that's so narrow. And then other people, because you gave this like narrow perception and you saved all these instances that you didn't just film and throw online.
Yeah.
You saved all these instances and you just perceived your own life like as a human being, and you didn't try and just post everything online. And you saved all these instances up, and then you kind of made like a story or a funny thing, like a Dave Chapelle kind of thing, where he's like, hey, this is how I perceive the world. I don't know what you think, but this is like, this is who I am and why I think this way. And people think that that's really, really funny.
Right.
Because they can see themselves in his perception, even though he's not trying to like make the perception of everybody, even though he is.
Yeah.
But he's doing it in a way that it's like very specific to him.
Right. And the joke is that he's sharing his opinion, and
you're seeing yourself in that in a way, but he's not just like, hey, everybody is like this.
Right.
It's like, no, he's talking about himself and how I shouldn't be saying this.
And it's funny.
And he probably shouldn't be, but he's saying it, and we all like relate with that in some way.
It's funny because it's like a relief, like, oh yeah, I've thought that too.
Oh, I thought that too when I was sitting in my room and I saw that silhouette of that chicken.
Yeah.
Walking. I thought that too.
Yeah.
But he's made it into like a big story.
So you're talking about the difference between just laughing at something because it happened versus actually creating something like a shared experience around an event.
Yeah, like to kind of sum up what that whole like tangent was I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Anytime we see something, we want to film it. And by filming it, we're thinking about what others will perceive instead of just being in the moment ourselves. Comedians have to be in the moment themselves to then perceive what is actually going on.
Exactly.
So then you take yourself more seriously because each moment is actually serious. You're not trying to just post stuff online.
Yeah.
So then you end up spending more time with yourself thinking about your own perceptions instead of the perceptions of this broad.
Right.
And then when you go to write comedy, that's when comedy is funny again, because then you're talking about your own unique perceptions.
Right.
But the people listening feel how that perception relates to their own unique perceptions too. And so you're trying to appeal to fewer people by being more specific, but actually you're really trying to be more specific so that a broader audience can be reached.
You have to actually be in the moment having a real experience so that you can find a way to share it with others in a way that they can relate to as well. Because as soon as everything has to be this meta, self-aware humor all the time, then that's kind of the death of comedy. Because who else can... I can't relate to this thing. You didn't give me a reason to. You just told me a thing.
And that's why I think Blimey Cow was so successful early on, because we spent our whole lives not making jokes, but just perceiving everything and building up this. And there was no way to post like our thoughts, really.
Yeah.
So we built up this whole framework of all these perceptions that we had that we just talked about. And it was like, oh, now we can post this on YouTube. Okay, well, let's craft and so we then used all of our ideas of here's all of youth group, here's all of homeschooling, here's all this stuff. And now everyone is just kind of, as we were like the pioneers of that, then everybody now is kind of rehashing those ideas over and over and over and over again in different ways. And now it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, I don't feel like you're actually perceiving anything more. Like you just think
this is a little stagnant.
Yeah. So how is this ever going to get renewed to be right? And I don't know if it's possible, to be honest, in that realm.
I think about that when we do Christian meme review and stuff, because I'm like, this just feels like, I mean, not just the people making memes, but us too.
Yeah.
That we're just making jokes about things that once happened.
Yeah.
So how long can you just keep making jokes about things that once happened?
Yeah, it's like that stuff doesn't seem like it actually happens much anymore because everybody is so self-aware about it.
Right.
So now everyone's
what
just...
What are the things happening now?
Right. Nothing's happening now.
Right.
Everyone's just commenting on like what happened in 2005, 2010.
Yeah.
But now everybody can film everything that it's just kind of over.
I don't know. Maybe you'll help me decide if this actually relates. But again, I'm reading that book, Hold On to Your Kids, and at the end, they've got a little section about social media, like they added to the book. Yeah. And he was saying that the internet is so dangerous because basically when we talk in real life, it's like a dance. Like you're looking at me and I'm getting signals from you and you're getting signals from me, and we're deciding, okay, how vulnerable am I going to be? How much am I going to share? What questions am I going to ask based on the visual cues that I'm getting from you? When you go online, everything is one note, do all the time. There's no build up. There's no foreplay, like that might not be the best term to use, but you know what I'm saying. Like when you communicate online, everything is just bloop, a message has popped up for you now, and you are just you can only perceive it on one level. Whereas when Jordan and I, or you at home, like you're talking to somebody, there's 1,000 different ways that things could be perceived just in the way you say hello to somebody. Where there might be like 2 ways that can happen on the internet. So. Just another version of like things are not as nuanced as they used to be because everything is online now. So everything is very one note. It's a lot of nostalgic humor because in some way I think the human spirit, human nature recognizes this isn't normal. So we have to talk about the things that used to happen.
Exactly.
But now we're getting to the point where the kids have grown up and they've always had the internet.
Yeah.
So there was no time before this one note kind of communication.
That's what I really do think that this is kind of, to sum up this whole thing, I think that comedy is going to start becoming less popular. People, because everything is just commented on as a joke, and at some point kids are literally not going to be able to relate to the humor because the humor is about a time that they didn't ever experience. And so now it's just a bunch of older people making jokes about something that they've never experienced in their life. So it's not going to make sense to them at all. So I wonder if they're going to start taking themselves more seriously because it's honestly just not funny to them. They don't get it. So maybe it'll become more inside jokes online. I mean, there'll always be jokes, but will it shift more to like, not every Instagram reel that you see, if you're in that world, is going to be jokes about people praying or jokes about making fun of how people pray, like we did. Making fun about all this stuff. Maybe generally life will be more serious, and then maybe once people actually start having lives outside of the internet, then people can build perceptions, and then this whole terrible cycle will happen again, where everyone's then commenting on the old perceptions. But what it's gonna take, Josh, is an EMP attack.